Welcome to In the Room, where we explore the elusive world of casting for film, TV, and commercials. Join us as we interview directors, writers, producers, and actors, taking a deep dive into their experiences with casting and how the ultimate decisions are made in bringing a story to the screen. Get an inside look at casting and find out what really goes on in the room.
We're touring Texas right now.
Yeah, you should come.
Yo, it's my boy Soul, young rising star, you know what I'm saying? He nice with it.
Oh.
Yeah!
There you go, there you go, there you go. I like that. Everybody, big loco. I want to see that head shake. Let's go.
Blow the candles, bro. Make a wish.
A live wish too, man.
Yeah.
I like that.
I know how it be. You ain't eat all day. I got you. That's what brothers are for. We feed each other, man.
Man, it's my fucking life.
I'm Kendra Franklin. I am a casting assistant and an actress.
I'm John Williams. I'm a casting director.
I'm Heather Kafka, and I'm an actor.
And today we have our lovely Katherine Propper visiting with us today. So thanks for being here. Katherine is a writer-director born and raised in Los Angeles. Her feature directorial debut, Lost Soulz, which is what we'll be talking about today, premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2023 and will be distributed theatrically by Kino Lorber in early 2024. Her 2022 short film, Birds, won the Grand Jury Prize at AFI Fest, a special jury award for vision at South by Southwest, and a special jury prize in the international competition at Clermont-Ferrand in France. Her 2019 short, Street Flame, screened at Tribeca Film Festival in 2019. She enjoys merging both fictional and non-fictional worlds in her filmmaking and drawing upon experiences, including working on director Terrence Malick's editing team. Her short film can be streamed on The New Yorker, Short of the Week, and Amaretto. Katherine received her MFA in film directing from University of Texas at Austin and a BA in art history from Georgetown University.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a long bio.
It was.
Sorry.
It was actually it was pretty like a little paragraph and a half, but it's good. Good information. So we normally always just start off asking you guys, like, how did this start for you? Like, what was like young Katherine like? Did you know you were going to go into this, or like what sparked the filmmaking for you?
I mean, I don't know if there was like one light bulb moment, but I grew up in Los Angeles, and I definitely was exposed to sort of people who worked in the entertainment industry, and I had peers in school whose parents were filmmakers, but I never thought that would be me. At that point, like when I was in school, the kids who knew they wanted to be filmmakers were already owning cameras at like age 8, 9, and 10, and they would go to film camp at UCLA. And so I was not one of those people, and I didn't pick up filmmaking until like pretty late in my undergrad in college. And
What did you start off of? What direction were you going?
I mean, I didn't even study film undergrad because the school I went to didn't really have that kind of program. I initially actually thought I might do business and do something practical. And
Is that because your parents or because
no.
I
think I wanted to do something that I thought would be like expediently financially rewarding, I guess. And soon into taking those classes for business, I realized I really didn't like those subjects like econ and econometrics and statistics. And
mine was computer aided drafting, and I was like, what am I thinking?
Yeah. And so, especially for those big lecture classes, I just didn't even go to class.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was sort of like a waste to go to college just to skip class because I didn't want to be there. And
Were you creating or being creative at the time, or?
No, I wasn't. I took a Shakespeare class and I really loved that. And then I took another class called the Sociology of Hip Hop, which was like this like fun elective. And so I loved those classes. And then I sort of was like, okay, well, how can I study all the classes that I am interested in and not do business? And so then I switched to American Studies because that was interdisciplinary and sort of allowed you to do random classes in different departments. And then once I knew I was going to study abroad in Florence, Italy, I thought I would switch to art history. And some of that was because I didn't want to do a thesis, and the American Studies students needed to do a thesis. And then I also just really liked art history. And so that was like a good major for me. And then I minored in film and media studies.
Okay.
But that wasn't like film production. It was more film studies. And I did make friends, though, that were sort of into filmmaking and who owned at the time like the Canon 5D, which was like, you know, something that you could do video on. And Francis Ha was shot on like a Canon 70 or something like that. And so I guess I took a screenwriting class, and then during the summer when I went back home to LA, I interned in the entertainment industry. So I interned at a production company and at Interscope. Mm-hmm. And so I was like dabbling in different parts of the entertainment industry, and sort of from meeting different people, I realized I was most interested in the creative side.
Was production company, was it commercial, theatrical, or was it?
It was called Denovi Pictures. So the producer was Denise Denovi, and she produced The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and The Heathers and a bunch of Nicholas Sparks adaptations.
I'm starting to see the Snoop come together, like the hip hop class. I'm starting to see Interscope. Okay.
Yeah. And so I guess from the little experiences I had in LA and sort of talking to people who were working at agencies and in the mailroom and all of the different routes, I realized more and more that I was most interested, like I said, in the creative side. And I didn't want to just do the business side of entertainment just because that was practical. I thought I kind of wanted to go all in if I was going to do entertainment and like try my hand at filmmaking. And also culturally speaking, at that point, like it was 2014, 2015. There was like a big New York Times expose about the lack of women directors. Ava DuVernay had just come out with Selma, and I learned that she only became a director in her early 30s.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, and so like people like that kind of inspired me, making me feel like I wasn't too old to pick up filmmaking and that there was like a need for women in the field. And yeah, if I became an agent, maybe I wouldn't find the voices that I would want to be fostering. And,
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, so you say, okay, I'm going to start doing film, right? And so you get a job. You do the internship at Terry's or Terry, or
that's much later.
Much later. Okay,
yeah, that's like after I moved to Austin to do my MFA, and late in my MFA.
So do you start
UT
playing around
Austin.
with the cameras and start like? Do you start just making? Like your style is so good and it's so intertwined. Like your voice and what you're doing is so like, it's done in a way that I think is like kind of one of the first authentic sort of where you're not taken out of it. You know, when people try to move into the phones and they move all around and you're like, it's they start putting text on the screen. Like the way you did it was just like, did you start playing with that early on? Like with like videos or like, cause I noticed in Birds, it was kind of like there and itself. Like how did you start to find, you know, your sort of direction?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it just happened kind of organically. Being in Austin, I was definitely inspired by the faculty at UT and also the filmmakers in Austin, like Richard Linklater, and you mentioned Terrence Malick, and those people were definitely inspiring and part of the reason I came to Austin. And then I think like UT Austin, the school, has a really fantastic documentary feel, or the faculty are really good at doc. And I think because there aren't as many actors in Austin, or like it's not a huge acting pool the way you find in LA, I think, it kind of forces you to think outside of the box when it comes to casting and finding people to work with in your films.
Well, I mean, everybody in it's like so authentic and so good. Like I love the textures. I don't want to jump too far ahead.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I really want to know how you found all these great kids. Like
I knew you would.
yeah,
actually,
like they're amazing.
They're good,
They're
right?
so amazing.
So great.
They really are.
Yeah, I mean, first let's just start with I mean, can we jump to birds or no?
No, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Like, how did that come about? Like, in the people for that, in that idea.
Yeah. So with birds, I was sort of expanding on something that I had already kind of done in my prior short film, which was Street Flame. And with Street Flame, I bring that up just because it ties into Lost Soulz. But I met the two lead actors from Craigslist, and I just posted,
Under the TV, radio, and film.
Maybe, or under gigs.
Under gigs. And what'd you post?
I think I put like, actor wanted for short film, something like that.
Okay.
But with the lead actor, his name is Suave Seidel, who ends up being the lead in Lost Soulz, I met him literally like 1 month into moving to Austin. And he was like the first person I met off of Craigslist doing the creative gig thing. And yeah, so I guess like from the success of Craigslist, I sort of felt like, oh, like I can find people sort of organically and have some success finding charismatic and compelling people. And then with birds, it was sort of a mix. I found some people on Instagram, and then I also found some people just sort of like street casting at local high schools. And it helped because my younger brother was living with me at the time, and he was going to McCallum High School.
Yeah.
And
that's an arts college, right? Or high school, right?
Yeah, arts high school. And I mean, I wasn't even like specifically seeking like theater kids. I was just kind of like at his high school, kind of just like
mingling.
Oh, I know the drill.
Street casting's big at the casting office.
Yeah. So just interesting people who look friendly and look like they want to chat.
So specifically talk me through that, like the Craigslist meeting, how does that go down?
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, well, the Craigslist meeting is different from the street casting. The Craigslist meeting was sort of like, hey, like, are you free, such and such date, and we're going to film something. And I think with Suave, we honestly met at my college apartment, which was just like, a few blocks north of UT. And and then so he came.
But you said it was for like a UT film project, right?
So at that point, I was just doing a cinematography project when I met Suave, and then later I kept him in mind for Street Flame. And I also met some of the other actors off of Craigslist. But yeah, I guess for meeting Suave, he came over to my apartment, and I had like a similar setup to what you have for this podcast, where I had a camera and mics, maybe a little bit more hidden, and we filmed some sort of takes of random things.
Of just random.
In this case, it was like him blowing out a candle, because the setup was do 3 types of shots with 3 different lighting sources. So I think I did one with like a real light, a candle light, and a flashlight, something like that.
Oh, right. Okay. And then so for Instagram, are you just like scrolling like specific pages, or what are you looking at?
So at that point, I guess it was like, by 2019, I think Instagram scrolling started showing you sort of people in your network or in nearby networks. And so it would show me people in my feed who I didn't actually follow. And that was how I found Peyton Washington, who's one of the cheerleaders in the film. And her Instagram was a lot of cool videos of her doing tumble tricks and flips. And I saw that she was in Austin, and I was like, oh, wow, like she's so talented, and she's an athlete and a cheerleader. And maybe if I reach out to her, because she's already posting a lot on Instagram and has kind of a following, maybe she'd be interested in being in a film. And so I just directly messaged her and then said like, hey, like I'd love to, talk to your mom if you're interested in being in a short film. I'm a student filmmaker at UT, and I'm looking for someone kind of like you. And she was just like, yeah, that'd be really cool. And then so I met her and her mom at the Round Rock Tumble Tech gym. And then, that was how I met Peyton. And then Peyton introduced me to some of her cheerleader friends. And then I cast from her friends, the other 2 girls.
And then what is your process to get them to feel like, okay, they can deliver, like that they can, are you running them through scenes? Are you running through just like sort of moods and emotions or? And also, is this out of necessity because you're like, I have no money, so I'm going to just try to see people that are interested, as opposed to like going out and casting, like getting someone like me or someone and doing actors and stuff like that? Or was this a choice of like, because we do a lot where people want to just do authentic, real people because they like the feel of that.
I think for Birds, it was because I knew I wanted to capture specifically young people, and it's harder to find sort of the under 18 group on the traditional casting forums.
That's like, authentic, that has the texture you want, that has that is comfortable with their friends in the way that has the relationships. Yeah, exactly.
And then once I found Peyton on Instagram, I had already, like, before she even said yes, had built up like a storyline about someone who's doing flips and gymnastics in the actual short. And so in that case, then I'm also thinking about, who's someone who can actually perform the stunts and the do the things.
Did the asthma come from a real thing, or was that something you put in there?
That came from a real thing. So when I met with her, I sort of just asked her questions about her life. And Peyton said she got into gymnastics when she was really young because she was born with one lung and her mom wanted her to strengthen her lung. And so that was when I first started thinking about like, the dichotomy of sort of someone who's super athletic and strong and invincible, and then sort of fragility, I guess, and mortality. And so that was something that's like a theme throughout the short.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But yeah, it came organically from just meeting people and hearing stories.
Do you pull a lot of your story out of so you pull a lot of your story, like for Lost Soulz, you pull a lot of story out, or did that change between those 2 projects?
I think the 2 projects were different. I think Lost Soulz kind of had more of a structure of a script, I would say. Birds, I had ideas, and I had, I knew I wanted to do a vignette intercut film that felt like summertime in Austin and young people and kind of like a Dazed and Confused effect. So that was on my mind, and I wanted it to feel very like romantic and like this like dreamy world.
Yeah, it was great.
And so and then flight was something I was thinking about, hence Birds, right? So I was thinking about like the BMX bikers who are flying and the gymnastics girls who are flying.
Trampoline.
And so like I had
rope swing. There was a lot.
Little things like that. I had images and themes, and then real life also was incorporated as I sort of met the different actors and then adapted sort of their stories into the vignettes in the film.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, the way it all intertwines and it just seems seamless and just kind of flows. I thought it was wonderful. And I thought, the casting on it was incredible. And yeah, it was really cool.
That makes sense to me because even like our situation was real organic. And like I was the only one, right, that you cast. But like even just that process was just so different to me.
I mean, I have so many questions about Lost Soulz because it's like, they all had to be good rappers. They had to,
seriously, how?
Yeah. How did that even come about?
Because these were real musicians.
Yes. Well,
do they have an album out? Because like it's really good too.
Thank you.
Everything they do, like every song they would start doing, I was like, well, now that's a good one too.
I think they're all in the soundtrack, right?
Yes. We're going to have a soundtrack with the music from the film that comes out with the release of the film when it comes out with Kino Lorber. And now we have dates. So it's coming coming to Texas April 12th.
Nice.
This April 12th.
Yay.
So are they a group or
no?
So how did that? Let's talk about Lost Soulz and how that came together. Did you form the idea, or did the idea come from like meeting these people, or?
It's based on a true story too, right? Or part of it?
It's inspired. Yeah, it's inspired by aspects of real life. So I mentioned I had met that one actor who's in Street Flames, Suave, on Craigslist. And so we kept in touch. We did the short film Street Flame in 2018. And then after that, after making the short film, we sort of discussed making a longer cover project. And Suave in real life was also a rapper and pursuing his music career. He moved out to LA and was touring with a famous rapper named Juice WRLD before Juice passed away, and sort of living the LA life of someone who's pursuing music. And so that was like on my mind, and I knew I wanted to make a feature with Suave. And so it wasn't like a big jump to be like, yeah, it's going to be set with him being a rapper, because that's what he actually is able to do. Yeah.
But the other groups, like how did the other guys come together?
Yeah. So, I mean, I really like ensemble films, as you can see from my work. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do an ensemble film, and it's going to be about like a rap group. And it was, again, very organic. Some of the people I cast from Suave's recommendation. So Suave gave me like a bunch of people to reach out to.
Out of LA, or were they all over?
Mostly out of LA.
Okay.
And I reached out to a bunch of people that he suggested I talk to. And many of those sort of connections, either like didn't go anywhere, or some of them.
Yeah, I know. Like, especially musicians, they're all over the place.
Yes. Yeah. But some of them did. And that's how I cast Seven. The actor plays Seven. Torn and Crystal, who play Nina and Big Loco, I found on Instagram. So just like Torn, I literally just DM'd him, a profile that randomly came up. Crystal, I was location scouting in El Paso, and there was someone who I met named Haza, who, when he found out the kind of film I was making, suggested I reach out to Crystal. And then I found her on Instagram, and I was like, oh, she's so cool, and she has these great music videos.
But it came together so great. Like, I mean, the diversity, the different personalities.
The relationships.
Yeah, the relationships, like, it fit together. Like, that's just like magic.
Yeah. It's her, though. I really do believe that.
Oh, thank you.
No, just from our conversations, right? Like, there's like a presence about you. Even like you were just so confident, but in not a cocky way. Like, no, it's going to be great. Everything's going to turn out great. I know. Like, and I'll be like, well, we don't. She's like, no, but it will. And I'm like, okay. And we just had like really personal conversations, kind of like, to what some of the other directors talking about. So my experience was totally different in this film, even though I had a very small part. It meant more in a way because we were able to connect like that. So I think she created that environment for everybody. You know what I mean?
Well, and keep going, because there's still so many more members of the group. And like, did they know each other at all? Did any of them?
So some of them did. That's why I mentioned that Suave had recommended Seven. So they knew each other. We also had like a separate songwriting session in New York a few months before shooting, where we had a group of musicians come together to write the original music in the film. And while we were sort of with those musicians, not all the members of the cast were present. I met two of the actors who ended up being in the cast, and that was Alex and Malachi. And so that was just kind of divine and lucky, because my producers brought on somebody named Zig, and he brought together some of his friends who he was like, yeah, I've put them in a room together, and they'll be able to create great music together.
Who is the Wesley character?
Oh yeah, and so Wesley I found on Instagram.
Okay.
And so that
is he Austin based or LA?
San
Antonio.
San Antonio based. And actually I cast him not knowing that he and Suave knew each other, but after casting him, they said that they knew each other, because the Texas hip hop world is small.
It's so hard to keep a film like this together, right? Did you have funding? Did you have you had a producer? So people, you were able to at least take care of people while they were with you in West Texas in the middle of nowhere. And so, because especially this dynamic where they're kind of musicians, and they're some making it, not different levels as far as survival goes, and it's like to keep. That's what I kept thinking. I kept thinking, you kept this together. Oh my God, you kept all these guys and all these personalities.
I mean, I don't think it was all me. I think I had really great producers and like a great team that was super enthusiastic about the project. And so many of the people working on this film were making a feature film for the first time, or were department heads for the first time. And so I think there was like a lot of faith and enthusiasm, and people who weren't jaded about the process, but like extremely excited. And there was like a familial spirit, I think, because of that. And like the team was so...
You're so intimate too with the camera, and so many, and you move throughout within that van, and like, was it a small nimble crew, or was it a big crew, or...
It was surprisingly big.
That's what, at the end, I was like, dude, there was a lot of people on this.
It was surprisingly quite big. I would have probably preferenced having a smaller crew, but I think inevitably when you have a lot of actors, sometimes you have actors who are sort of bringing posse along with you, or along with them. So, like for example, a few of the actors brought their siblings or their manager or their friend to come along.
Well, I mean, it helped, right? Like in the performances, I was like, dude, they had to get all these extras. They had to get, it's like a big, it was like, there was a lot of scenes I was like, dude, they really pulled that off and they got the right extras, everything, the environment, the production value, like everything was just spot on.
Thank you.
Yeah, the wardrobe, the costuming was just amazing. Like it was all just spot on.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, some of it was that, like I said, we had a really awesome crew. Some of it was that some of the actors in the film, like Micro, who plays Froggy, and he's sort of a somewhat famous Venezuelan artist. He had quite a following, and so when he posted on Instagram, like, come to this free concert.
That's awesome, yeah.
Like at least 300 people.
That's
or
amazing.
Maybe 200 people, I don't know, came just because of his Instagram post to be the extras for the concert scene.
That's awesome.
So that was definitely Micro, and Micro was cast because my producers, who are Venezuelan, recommended Micro. and then when I met him, I was like, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's so talented.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great singer too. So
yeah.
That was how we cast Micro, and I think that's everyone in the cast. And
did you have to do any sort of actual like auditioning with those members of like seeing if they could, act their way out of a paper bag?
Yes. I had sort of sides. I mean, just the same way you cast any actor, I guess. I had sides, and I had some of the actors do cold readings that they self-taped with their phone. Or if they couldn't do that on their own, I would do like a FaceTime call or Skype call and do the sides with them and do like a cold reading.
And so everybody worked out. Nothing like went like awry.
I think in that context, I'm not looking for someone to nail it right on the cold read or just from reading the pages, but I'm initially seeing like how do they like being filmed, how nervous do they get just sort of talking to me and reading these pages. So some of it is like personality, like do I think they can be in front of the camera, and then some of it is just kind of like this energy, like I'm like, is this person compelling to me? Do I want to know more about them just kind of by this little interaction? And so I wouldn't say like a lot of the actors like nailed their cold reading or like the self-tapes that they would send.
Yeah.
How much of the film was, because it felt so authentic and so loose, like how much was it like, okay, this is kind of what I'm going for, you guys kind of feel this out?
I think, a lot of that was present. Like I encouraged improv and the actors paraphrasing their lines, and I wanted them to bring themselves to the characters they're playing. So I definitely wanted them to be themselves.
Yeah.
And so then when it came to casting the Belinda role, how did that come about?
Yeah, so that one, that role I cast more traditionally. We didn't have a casting director working for us, so I think I had one of my producers put a listing on Backstage, and I didn't like most of the submissions I was getting. So then I just like directly went on Collier's website where they have headshots of people, and then I found Kendra's headshot and maybe like a few others and said, this is the description, and asked Collier directly if they had any actresses who were interested. And then I think I specifically requested you submit and maybe like
I got an email from my agent.
Yeah, one other person. And then the agent at Collier was like, yes, for sure. And then I got a self-tape, and the quality was like much better than the Backstage submissions. Yeah.
I imagine it would be.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
And then, I have to say, Kendra was just phenomenal in it. Really, really blew me away. So excellent casting there.
Thank you. And I remember when I was speaking to Kendra, and I told Kendra that she might be working with actors with less experience, and I sort of wanted to gauge how she felt about working with other actors who, were less experienced. She was like, "Oh, this is great. I teach young kids at Zach Theater, and I'm totally cool with it." And so that was also like encouraging to me, because I didn't want the like sort of real actors to feel.
That was my callback. I had a callback. I was all dressed, and she's like, "Oh, you're actually in your costume. I just want to talk to you." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I didn't realize in that moment that she's talking to me, because she was like, "Oh no, I want you to have the part." But it was more of that first, and I was just like, "Okay, it's more of an interview." And then she's like, "No, I want you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So that was really different for me, because I just got told I had a callback.
But I should say before that, like the sides that I gave the people to do for the mom role was like the most emotional scene in the movie, and so most of the self tapes and submissions I'm getting are actors who are crying and sort of having a very intense scene on camera. And so I mean, like, I'm asking for a lot already just out of the self tape.
Yeah, of course.
Kendra gave me a really, really great self tape. So it wasn't just like I was like, "Oh, I like her picture." I was like, "Oh, I like her performance."
Yeah. Shout out to my friend Andre for helping with that. Because I did a take, and he was like, "That's good, but I know you can do better." So that's how you got what you got.
And also, I wasn't the only one looking at the tape. Like, my producers looked at it, and a lot of people were like, "Yes, pick her." So
yeah, no, you had a beautiful depth and just the weight of that mama bear energy in the house.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And she
great.
weirdly looked a lot like the actor who plays Wesley.
Wesley.
Not weirdly, but it was just kind of like, yeah, it makes sense.
It's totally
aesthetically.
believable. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the little girl?
Yes. The little girl was a cool find. Her name's Gigi in real life. And I had met her a few years earlier in 2018 while in Dallas at the Oak Cliff Film Festival. And some little kid was like kicking the back of my chair. And when I turn around, it was like this very beautiful, charismatic young girl. And that was Gigi. And, right away I asked her parents, I was like, "Oh, does she act?" And then her dad was like, "Yes, she does, and I'm her manager. And are you a filmmaker?" And I was like, "Yes, I am a filmmaker. And if I would love your business card, and if I ever think of something for her, I'll reach out." And so I followed her parents on Instagram, and then I kept her in the back of my mind.
She's great. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, you see her? You see how she casts? Like, it just comes to you. I feel like
that's not everyone, but that was
I know.
Some.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're out in the world, and you're looking, and you're finding, and you have that perspective, like you're looking through that lens, and it's. I mean, I do it. I walk around, and I'm like, where is it? Who's this guy? Yeah, I mean, everyone the tone, the fabric was so authentic, and I loved the intertwining of just all the different mediums, and Seven, and I love the montage of Seven and Wesley at the end when using Super 8 footage. Like, how was that bringing all that together? I mean, you must have had just an enormous amount of footage to try to cut.
Yeah.
Well, I would say no, I didn't feel like I had an enormous amount of footage. Actually, that montage in particular, that was like a reshoot that I did like a week before picture locking the film. I got back I went to LA a few weeks prior to film sort of connective tissue with the Super 8 camera. So I just went on my own to LA, and that's where I filmed stuff with Seven, Suave, and Bambi, who plays Wesley.
Yeah, and they were all out there, or
They were all out in LA at the time. Now Bambi now lives in San Antonio, but at the time he was in LA for a bit. And yeah, so I filmed that there, and I ended up using like all that Super 8 that I filmed out in LA.
Yeah.
In the film.
It was beautiful. And then shout out to the soup kitchen on Cesar Chavez.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And was that guy just some guy that was out there, or did you go?
Von Keith. Yeah. So I had volunteered at that soup kitchen prior because it's near a church that I go to called Christ Church, near Cenote on Cesar Chavez.
Yeah.
And while volunteering, I'd met Von Keith, and I was like, oh my gosh, Von Keith, you'd be so good in this film. And he actually said he studied theater too in college. And
it's so incredible when that happens. You're just like, this is so, like, I've cast out of that soup kitchen a few times.
Yeah.
And you find just amazing folks.
Yes.
That are like, oh yeah, no, I was an actor for 20 years before this. And you're like, oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah. And with Von Keith, he gave me his phone number, and I was texting him. And honestly, I was worried that like he might not show up, but that whole like week prior to filming, I had kept in touch with him on text, and he was like, I'm going to be there. Like, I'm ready for my like Oscar moment.
Yeah.
So he was definitely super excited to be there, and was there like, an hour early.
That's awesome. And how much did you give him did you say, here's some ideas, or did you give him the script, or did you give him?
I didn't give him the script.
Because it was some pretty profound stuff that they were talking about.
Yes, I only had his cell phone number, so I couldn't email him the script. But I basically like gave him a rundown on text of what the story of the film was. And I explained that, it's about this rapper, and he goes on this journey and comes back home. And then by the time we were there filming the scene, he knew like the character's journey basically. And he knew that he was sort of like encouraging someone who's in a tough time, and everything he said was improvised. Yeah. So
it was spot on. Like, it worked with the film.
It was spot on, but I think it also speaks to how like thoughtfully like Von Keith was thinking about the story and genuinely wanting to say something to someone who was like in a dark time, and it was coming from a real place. And it was really special because he like improvised it all, but it really just felt like he was just talking like for real. Yeah. So,
but it was very poignant to the film and everything at that moment where he was at his journey in the film. Why West Texas?
Why? So
such a strange.
Yeah, I was going to ask about location. What made you pick those locations?
Yeah, I mean, I had always thought of the film as like a film about this person who like wants to go to LA, and so it made sense that he would end up on a journey heading west. And in my initial script, I actually didn't have it as West Texas. I had it as like New Mexico on their way to LA. But when I was sort of location scouting, I realized that that New Mexico wasn't that far away from El Paso, actually. And I knew I wanted to film at Marfa, and Marfa's really hard to get housing in. And so I realized that like the closest town near Marfa was El Paso. And so then it made sense, like, why do we even have to go to New Mexico? We could just have it all be West Texas and film out of El Paso being like a base camp, and then film in Marfa on our way to El Paso.
So the old guy with the cattle, was that just a stumble upon, or?
Yeah. He was just a stumble upon. We were filming in that RV park or we weren't filming there. We had our base camp there. So the bathroom was there, and we were filming some driving scenes out of that base camp. But when we arrived, I saw the horses and the cattle, and I thought, it would be cool to capture those animals on screen and to have the
juxtaposition of this hip hop world. And
totally. Exactly. And to have the actors, to have the actors interact with the cattle. And so when I was looking for the owner to get permission, I met that rancher who owns the land, and I asked him about filming his animals, and he was like, yeah, go ahead. And then I saw him, and I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if he was in it too. So I just directly asked him, I was like, oh, would you be interested in being on camera and just talking about your animals? And I kind of did a mini interview, doc style, and then he was like very down.
He was so sweet.
Was he taken aback? Was he like, who are you?
Honestly, no. He was more like kind of charmed and excited. He was kind of like, oh yeah, cool. Like, do whatever you want. Like,
to me, that is the heart of a real Texan. That is what we truly are like. It is like the welcoming of all people, like the old school Texan would always be like that. Just like, yeah, come on in, do what you want to do. It's like, fine. And you're like, do you not realize this man has like multicolored hair and he's coming out of every which way and all whatever. He's like, you do what you want to do, son.
Right.
Like, it was exactly like that. And he was very chill. And like, he was just like, yeah, whatever. Exactly.
That's how we used to be.
Yeah.
Just don't take my beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right.
no, I mean,
I'll give you one.
no, that'd be
Just
like
don't take.
more.
There's more in the
over
back.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, how did you get here? Like, what brought you here when you were in LA? What triggered that move?
Mostly what triggered it was I knew I wanted to go to film school to do my MFA. And I was looking at schools in LA. And at the time, my dream school was AFI. And I actually loved LA and thought I would stay there. But something drew me to Austin because I did love some of the independent filmmakers working out of Texas. I already mentioned Linklater and Malick, but even younger filmmakers and newer filmmakers like Kat Candler and David Lowery, and he's not as young, but Jeff Nichols and David Gordon Green. Like, I was like, oh, they're all in Austin or in Texas. And I was like, there must be something in the air over there. And so that made me apply to UT. And then when I got in and I found out how affordable it was too to attend the program, it was sort of like a no-brainer, I guess, to come to Austin. And I'm really glad that I did because I didn't know it. But then Austin, all of a sudden, after like moving here in 2016, it became like the best city to live in and everyone was moving here. Yeah. And so I felt like, I was part of that wave, the early wave.
Yeah, it was a really magical time, especially in the filmmaking community. Yeah.
And South by Southwest is here and AFF. And I think Austin had a reputation as being like this cool, independent, artsy place.
Did you know anybody at the time?
In Austin? I did, yeah. I had a friend from college named Brooks Birdsall who worked in camera departments, and he was in Austin, and he actually got married in Austin before I went to film school. So when his wedding was in, I guess in March or so, I came and went to his wedding, and I saw Austin and got to visit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then you you were over working at Terry's or no?
Yes, but that was after I had already finished my MFA program. So not so long ago, I guess. And that's on a film that hasn't been released or completed yet called
We've emailed.
The Way of...
We've emailed. I remember now. Yeah, I think your name's on the email, on the assistant email.
Oh,
because I was just talking to Colton the other day.
Well, yeah. So Colton's was there when I was there, and and my editor Isaac Burns, he also was working there at around the same time as me, and so yeah.
And so Isaac, because if people don't know, it's just like there's so many people have gone through it and worked for Terry, right? And there's a web of connection for everybody. And so you got your editor for Lost Soulz from meeting over there, or?
So he was actually also in my MFA program in my cohort, but he also was working with me while I was editing for Terry, and he edited for Terry longer than I did. So I think that was important because I think Isaac learned a lot from editing for Terry that he incorporated into editing Lost Soulz.
For sure, there's definitely some vibes that are the same, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your art history degree kind of helps with your filmmaking in any way?
Yeah, I think so, because I think about things from a very visual place, and I am really excited by beauty. And so I'm thinking about composition and something that's going to be aesthetically pleasing and visually captivating and have like a cinematic quality. And I think I learned a lot of that just from studying art.
Yeah. And then where does the hip hop come in?
I think the hip hop. The hip hop is just like a love of mine. I think I loved the music. I said I'm from LA, and like in a cliche way, I grew up liking Tupac and and a lot of the old school rappers, and I loved how it was an aspirational kind of genre, and I've always loved hip hop music.
And so all of those guys, like, tell me, I'm super curious about Seven. Like, what's his career? What's his background?
He's a rapper,
Out of LA.
He's
yes.
not an actor first or at all.
No, he's not an actor. He's a rapper, musician, but he definitely does music videos and TikToks and social media. So I think him, like everyone in the cast, has experience being in front of the camera.
But I just felt like he had a lot of heavy lifting in the acting department.
Yeah.
As far as for being a non-actor, that he handled really well.
Yeah. So that was just him.
Really natural.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how much different is what's on screen versus these guys? Did they make a big jump from who they are? Or?
I think it depends. I mean, I think yes, they are being themselves, but obviously they're scripted.
They have to hit their beats and their points.
Scripted elements and circumstances. So no, I'm not like Seven isn't exactly his character in the movie, but I think his personality comes through for sure. And I think that's true for a lot of actors. I think even if they're playing characters that are different than who they are, like some of their essence comes through in the character always.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to hear that way you went about casting and how it came together, the fact that it was just like, it looks so perfect, like in the dynamic and the relationships and stuff like that. It's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Especially knowing like they all didn't already know each other, because it feels.
I was
like
for sure. I was like, oh, this was cast in LA from like a music label or like.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a band.
Yeah, this is a band already.
They're formed.
Yeah.
Like they all know each other and they're just cast like this.
No, but you were asking about hip hop. I feel like I always watched those shows like American Idol and X Factor and The Voice growing up. And I feel like in a second life, my job would be like scouting.
Yeah, that's what I said, because that's what I felt like, because I know a little bit about the music industry, and I felt like in the film, I was like, oh, this is a manufactured group from LA.
Yeah.
And they picked out the right people and they put it together. So to hear how it really came together without that sort of like ideology behind it, right? Is really fascinating.
Well, and at that final concert scene, I was actually feeling like this is kind of like the Spice Girls of this rap moment, because everybody has their own personality, right? Like Seven has his own vibe, and then over here, and it's like you got something for everybody in this like super group. It was like awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, some of that was organic and some of it was, in the back of my mind wanting to create like a group where everyone had distinct, unique personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was totally feeling. And it worked. Like they all vibed together so well.
And with the music though, like, did you allow them to just do their own thing? Did you have some of it like pre-written for them, or like how did that?
It depends. I think if it was like a freestyle in the film and it seems like it's a freestyle, it probably is a freestyle. If it feels like it's a performance, or if they're, singing along to a pre-recorded track, then it's a pre-recorded track that was made originally for the film. And like I mentioned before, we had a team of musicians and songwriters, some people who aren't on screen who helped produce the music and write those songs. And then some of the performers on camera rewrote their verses for sure, but like the music composition and the production was done by someone else.
Because you covered a lot of ground, were you just kind of filming in the van as you guys were like traveling a lot too, or was it all there's a little?
I would say like every time we're filming in the van, we're like, it's planned to film in the van because it requires a lot of planning and effort to, have the camera.
To make that.
You're in it, right? That's holding the camera, right?
No, I'm not holding the
you're
camera.
Not? Okay.
The DP's in the sort of center console area, and I'm in the trunk with the sound mixer and the first AC with monitors, and then the actors.
Yeah, that sort of what you guys captured with that privateness in there and being able to float in between people's cameras and over shoulders, and it really felt like you were in the van with them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it feels natural, but there are definitely times where we're just like looping around the same route and repeating the same thing over and over again to like get coverage.
To get coverage, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's filmmaking.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the people don't see. Like they don't know how many times we actually had to do something,
Yeah.
They look flawless though.
Because Kendra was there for the stuff that was like hyper scripted, like almost none of that was improv, right?
Right, right.
But I encouraged, like I said before, I encouraged people to paraphrase the words too.
You said the same to me. You said I can make it my own, but I mean, I pretty much kept to the, like, genuine. I kept the script genuine. Like, I may change the word here and there, but she wanted it to be organic, like feel like it was coming from us, not a page, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Which you guys definitely did that. Yeah, it was great.
yeah, it was actually cool because I remember Swab kept going, how did it look? Did it look okay? Did I look normal? Like, I don't want to look. He was so committed because he would come like, hey, so you like teach, right? He goes, I don't want to look like I'm fake crying. And I was like, no, you're good. He's like, you'll tell me. I go, I'm sure Katherine would tell you too. Like, but I was like, no, you're doing great. You're doing great. So it was kind of cool to like, you know, get to know them. And even now they're like, my mom, you know, my own screen mom. So it's like, we only worked, I had a very short time and I only really worked with Gigi, Bambi, and Suave. So when I met the guys, what y'all saw is what I saw.
Yeah.
So I felt like they had already knew each other too. To find out from I was like, oh, they didn't know each other. So that was surprising for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was so genuine, even just like meeting them in person. Even though, I mean, I know you guys also traveled together when you were promoting the film. So, but I don't know, maybe that energy happened on set. So even when you guys were traveling, it just kind of stayed because, like, you know, they were promoting. So I would see stuff online. They would, you know, and they looked like a big family. So by the time I met them, it was like, hey, mom's here, you know. So that was kind of cool too. But I was like, yeah, these guys felt like they grew up together.
Do you think you'll continue casting in this way? Like,
I think, yeah, I'm open to doing that. I'm also, I'm open to working with actors or more experienced actors, but I don't really have like one mindset of like the way it has to be done.
yeah. So you like social media or street casting or casting director or whatever.
Yeah, and I would also say like the actors in Lost Soulz and even the actors in Birds, even if they started out as first-time actors when they were working with me, some of them are now actors and they're older and maybe now they've taken some lessons or classes or have had some training. And so I wouldn't even call them non-actors. I would just say they were like early career actors.
Yeah,
it happens a lot. Once you get people and they get into it and they're like, oh, this is what it is.
Yeah.
They get super excited about it. Yeah. But there's just something, there's a fabric to your cast that just feels so just textured and authentic and just like so natural and wonderful to watch. And didn't no one seem to be pushing or like, you know, like you said, Suave, like when I was like, oh, this is gonna be hard for him, and then I was like, whoa, that kid nailed it.
You know, he was like, hey, can we run lines real quick? Like, so while they're switching, we're waiting.
I mean, I knew he was up against you, and I knew that you were gonna cry.
You knew
I knew you were gonna cry.
But no, he was really cool, and he, and it was like having those moments, and as an actor, when you have a moment to be able to like be one-on-one with each other, and then you start getting comfortable with each other. And so then, like, even though we were cut, we would be able to chat and talk or whatever. So then it's like once the camera was rolling, he got more comfortable, I got more comfortable. Gigi was really his play sister. It was like, okay, the energy was there for him to relax to be able to do it. And then same for me.
Yeah. He held camera great, especially even just in that sort of like on the road in the van, just holding space and just seeing him in thought. And he did a great job filling space with that. He was great.
Thank you.
Without feeling like he had to do something.
Yeah, he wasn't forcing or pushing. Yeah, that's sometimes hard because they're like people think they have to, they have
to act.
Yeah. So you created seemed like a great environment for people just to feel comfortable and be themselves.
Yeah, that was the goal. And then also I think everyone was dedicated to doing a good job and wanting to make it feel truthful and real. And so that's why I said they're just early career actors, because I think all of them would be excited to act again and probably will act again if given the opportunity.
Yeah. So
how long did the whole thing take, the whole shoot?
It was like about a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what's next?
hopefully
For the film.
Oh, for the film.
Yeah.
So the film's coming out in mid-April of 2024 with Kino Lorber as the distributor. And so it's going to be playing in Austin at like Alamo Drafthouse South Lamar and a lot of theaters that do more like independent and art house film.
Awesome.
And then what's next for you?
For me, it's hopefully making more films. And it's always a process to make that happen.
Yes, it is. But have you seen, so with the success of this, because you've done well at the festivals and stuff, and now you got distribution, are you seeing the doors open up a little bit easier? Or
Yes.
tell us a little about that experience for a filmmaker, for a young filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like super easy. I would just say that
Opportunities.
that maybe I have like more of a foot in the door just because I have this other sort of sample project that I can show.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the festival run, how that was for you.
Okay, yeah. So it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York.
It was an awesome festival.
Yes, and it was super fun because the whole cast was.
That's awesome.
Kendra didn't come actually.
I didn't make it.
She was
bummed.
invited though.
I was invited, but I didn't get to make it.
And so a lot of the cast were there, and we had a cool after party after our premiere, and it was a really like fun screening and fun time. And then we screened the film at like a whole bunch of regional festivals in the U.S. and also a few in Europe. And so yeah, it like just ended in December, basically our festival run.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That was a good experience.
Yes. I mean, I didn't get to go to all of them, but I went to several of them. And yeah, I think it's always fun getting to see the film with different audiences and different cities and see how people respond to the film.
And were you getting to network and meet industry professionals? Did it seem like it helped a lot with your...
I wouldn't say that I'm meeting like a ton of industry professionals, but I'm definitely meeting fellow filmmakers. And that's always really cool just to meet like fellow filmmakers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I think we're about there.
Yeah.
So, any last questions?
No.
No?
Yeah. Thank you. That was awesome.
Thanks so much for
Thank
being
you for
Thank you.
having me.
Yeah. Thank you for the film too. It was really good.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Finally.
True.
Our show today was recorded in studio by the good folks at Record ATX. Check them out at recordatx.com. Our theme music is produced by Jonathan Price. You can check out some of the sounds he makes with his project, The Mid-Cities, on Spotify. Follow, subscribe, and smash that like button if you see one. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.